Hello, everyone. Delighted to welcome Cath Bishop today, the author of The Long Win, one of my favourite books. I think I once said I've only read two books twice, The Hobbit and The Long Win. So I love The Long Win. Cath's spoken at our conference a couple of times and done some great CPD courses. So we thought we'd talk about today about Cath's three C's: clarity, constant learning and connection, to see how they can help directors of sport be better at their jobs and enjoy their jobs a bit more. So, Cath, thanks for joining us. Maybe you'd like to talk to us a bit about clarity, first of all, and how you think that would help us as directors of sport.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, great to connect. And clarity is about clarifying a much truer, more human sense of what success looks like. And so actually you're framing for this whole conversation about helping directors of sport not just do their jobs better, but actually really enjoy it and thrive in the process of it. In itself, you're starting to clarify what matters for directors of sport. We need to make sure that we have all of these components that are part of success and then part of what we measure as success. So get clear, get clarity on what matters, what else matters at the moment that you're not paying attention to, that you're not really valuing, that in the long term is what you're going to look back and think is most important. So it's clarity of purpose, the why you do your job, and then it's how you go about it. And so getting clearer about how we are delivering our classes, impacting on the students, supporting ourselves to keep growing in our jobs, supporting others, getting feedback. So all of these things, it's getting clear on the why of our jobs and the how. And inevitably that starts to broaden out what success looks like. It isn't just one thing, it isn't just winning the local trophy. It isn't just delivering certain things on the curriculum. Those are really important, but actually what will make those really valuable will be the experience you create around them. So get really intentional, clarify what success is going to look and feel like.
So just to give people a bit of an example, what could success look like and what would it feel like?
Yeah, so I would think in terms of stories here. What would you like people you work with, so fellow colleagues, to what sort of story do you want them to tell at the end of this year or at the end of 5 years about what it's been like to work with you? What would you like your students to leave thinking about in terms of the story of how they've experienced sport at school? And actually, what are the stories they're going to tell in 10 years' time? They won't be talking about fixtures and results. They'll be talking about shared moments of joy, of difficult moments we came through together. So think in terms of stories of everyone that you impact in the role, and think about that for yourself. What do you want to look back on and think, yeah, this year's been really special because of these moments, stories, shared experiences that we've created, and make sure those are intentional, not just, well, I hope they happen. Yeah, set yourself goals around that. I want people to be telling a story where they have learned something, stretched themselves, got great relationships and friendships out of this, did something perhaps they didn't realize they could do, or got themselves out of a really challenging situation, or just really did things that surprised themselves, that didn't think they were capable of. These are the sorts of things that we actually want to have in our mind when we turn up at the start of term, when we turn up to the lessons. We are always creating stories. So start clarifying the stories that you hope to be part of shaping.
Brilliant. And you talked about purpose at the beginning, Cath. How would you recommend a director of sport would go about setting a purpose for his or her department or for the sports program? How would they start that process?
Well, I'd start really raw and say, why do you do the job you do? And why does sport in school exist? So what, again, is if we didn't have those things, if your school didn't have you in your role, what would it be missing out on? What's the opportunity that you can do to add something that no one else can? And the same for sport. If sport wasn't there, how would the school and the students and everyone within the school be poorer? So really go back to those basics and then thread those through to the everyday.
I used to ask my department, why do you get up out of bed in the morning? What is it that makes you want to come to the school and teach sport? So yeah, great start. So the next C, Cath, is constant learning, about sort of personal growth, and again particularly finding things that we can gain beyond just the result. So why is constant learning so important to the Long Win?
So it's important to all of us. We're human beings, and we, by our nature, want to grow. We are capable of growing and changing and adapting and developing every single day. It's what we do. You know, the story of humanity is one of making progress all the time. And it's something that is a really intrinsic motivator. It has kind of meaning when we grow and learn from something. Sometimes we get rewarded extrinsically, so we get, a prize or an award, and it's nice, but it's pretty temporary. If we ourselves have grown through our roles, we've learned things, we've developed skills, we've become a better leader, then that's a much more meaningful and longer lasting form of motivation for us. So again, learning is something that also is a key part of resilience. It's a key part of how we keep ourselves going when things are difficult, because that's often when there are really valuable lessons to learn. So reframing all the challenges we face, okay, what am I going to learn here that I didn't know before? What are the things that I'm going to have to grow and adapt to in order to manage this situation that's changed and feels more difficult? So again, really bringing out learning. It's not just a sense of one moment in time, whether we win a fixture or not, or whether a team gets to a certain place or not, or whether the students get certain results or not. Those are lovely milestones. But through all that, you want to be maximizing the learning and the growth that you have, as well as the students. So part of what enables you to flourish is to set yourself that challenge of, what can I learn to do this year that I haven't done before? We don't want to keep turning up doing the same thing over and over again, because then, we get stale, and there are so many fresh ideas about the role that sport can play in a student's life, and what it's like to be a teacher. It's such a broad profession, and the impact you can have on your students physically, mentally, emotionally, on the kind of culture that you create, the environment you create for your colleagues. So again, success is really, for me, one of the key factors is what have you learned? What have you done differently? How have you grown in the role? And that will be a really key part of thriving in what's a hugely demanding profession.
Yeah, and I also think as a director of sport, it's really important that you lead on that and encourage your own department to learn by suggesting things that they can stretch themselves. So again, such an important part of a director of sports role,
Yeah,
I think.
it's it's massive, isn't it? And how can you effectively help students to learn if you're not learning yourself? That's
Mm.
very incongruent. I mean, we sometimes see that in sport, that kind of coaches, they have all the knowledge, they know everything, and they're athletes, they're the ones that are developing each day. But we see those aren't actually the
Mm.
best experiences or the best coaching relationships. So we absolutely want to role model that learning. It's the best
Yeah,
way for us to transmit it to others.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the final C, connection, something we've been talking a lot, Pads, is about putting people first, building those relationships. And I think you said in the book that human flourishing is the ultimate marker of success. So why is connection so important? How, as directors of sport, can we, improve our connections?
So we all need to feel connected to a community, to others around us, to thrive. It's a basic human need. We are social creatures. We want to feel we belong to something that matters to us. And Padsis is a kind of brilliant example of a community that you've created that has so much value when you come together, not only for the learning, which is
Mm.
great, but actually for the learning from each other, to have others around us who've got similar experiences, who've got different, tips and tools and ideas, or who can just be a sounding board for us. So we want to create those communities. And that comes back to having really genuine relationships, not transactional relationships where, this is my job to do these responsibilities and your job to do those responsibilities, and we have to tick them off. But actually, I'm interested in you. I want to help you grow and learn, and you want to help me get better at what I'm doing. And we're interested in each other beyond just being directors of sport or whatever it is that we do. So
Mm.
those relationships are absolutely crucial. And again, often the systems we work in, the organizations, the schools, we tend to structure everything around what? Around tasks, around things that we do, rather than around people. Well, actually, I think it's really great to set goals around relationship building. How this week, in the course of doing my job, am I going to deepen the relationships with all of my colleagues Where are we going to have those little moments for actually a meaningful conversation beyond, you know, who's driving the minibus today and how many kids we got here? You know, we have to do that stuff, but actually in the course of those conversations, not spending hours, but just think about connecting with someone before you ask about that transaction for the day, of thinking about, is there a better way we could be doing this? How are you experiencing this? You know, how is this going to make your day fun to do this? What could I do in order to help you a bit more? And that is something that, again, creates a kind of real sense of community flourishing. We've got each other's backs, and that's a great environment to work in.
Yeah. I mean, we've actually set up a buddy system at Padsis where, 60 directors of sport have got somebody else just like that they can connect with, they can find out about, and obviously help them with their job. But that connection's really, really important, I think. And we also discuss this term and using the correct language, maybe. And sometimes in schools we talk about our rivals when often they should maybe be our friends. And again, I think in the book you use the term worthy rivals. So what's a worthy rival, and why should we be aspiring to have more worthy rivals, Cath?
I mean, often the people that we think of as our sort of competitors, and if we go down a route of thinking they're our enemies, they're actually the people we've got most in common with. You know, if I'm kind of in a sports competition, the person who understands most what it's like to sit on the start line and manage the nerves and the challenge and all the training before it is the person that I'm racing against. And so, you know, for us to kind of see that we need each other, because that's the way in which we push our performance on. We also don't want to create an environment of fear where I kind of hate my opponent and all that, because that's not going to help my performance. It's going to flood my body with stress hormones. So what's the point of that? And actually, in the bigger picture of it, we're learning together across schools, across sport. Sport is a tool that, you know, it brings us together, and then we want to give our best. And I want to make sure you're at your best, and that's going to help me to be at my best, and then we all gain.
That's brilliant, Cath. Thanks for that. And just a reminder to everyone, the second edition of The Long Win is out on the 21st of May. So make sure you all pre-order it and have another great read. So, Cath, thanks again so much for your time. And we look forward to catching up with you again soon. Thanks, Cath.
Great to speak. Thanks.